Yesterday I set up a Twitter account for my half of the channel, Cynical North at Sumerian Cynics, if you're interested. That lasted about 10 minutes before my account was blocked. Why, you ask? Well, let me tell you a story. I set up a Twitter account for two reasons. Firstly, to continue my work on another social network, and secondly, to find material for future videos. Well, I certainly achieved the latter thanks to Lindsay Amer, creator of the YouTube show Queer Kid Stuff. Remember in the last video, Kenzie told us about actions and consequences? Well, Lindsay, you reacted to a comment that wasn't even remotely offensive, and now you've pissed me off. So this is the consequence. Lindsay shared this tweet. Trans kids are kids too. And I, much like everyone else, had the reaction of, duh? So I responded with a tweet, I don't think anyone suggested they weren't. Because of course trans kids are kids, it's in the fucking description. Trans kids. There are many arguments that kids shouldn't be able to go through the transition due to their age and immaturity, which I fully agree with. But I don't think anyone is legitimately arguing they're not kids. Anyway, I went to review the people I was following and was kindly informed by Twitter that my account had been blocked, and I was unable to use the site. I received an email telling me that I had exhibited automated behaviours that violated the Twitter rules, along with a link to the aforementioned rules. The rules state the usual stuff: no threats of violence, promoting violence, harassment, hateful conduct against people due to their race, ethnicity, sexuality, etc. So evidently one of two things happened. Either Lindsay reported my comment for some form of discrimination, which you can plainly see it isn't. I responded politely, informing Lindsay that she was correct in her assessment that trans kids are kids, and that nobody that I'm aware of would say otherwise. In which case, Lindsay's just oversensitive. Or, Twitter decided that me sending one tweet was harassment, which, once again, it clearly isn't. Seeing as Twitter would run on an algorithm, I'm assuming that this doesn't happen to everyone who tweets a reply, which means it's quite likely that Lindsay reported me. Of course, I have no way of knowing for sure, so, Lindsay, if you wish to deny any knowledge, feel free to use your freedom of speech. The same freedom of speech I was denied. In saying that, I feel it my duty to point out her Twitter account is a goldmine for videos like ours. Her tweets are so nonsensical that they'll make you laugh, or else she states the obvious as if an important discovery with the same sense of accomplishment a toddler has when they tell you about being able to go potty by themselves. So, in response to not being allowed to question a single tweet on Twitter with a polite rebuttal, I'm going to question several tweets, and I'm not going to force myself to be polite. Saying that kids should not have access to LGBTQ+ education is homophobic, plain and simple. No, it isn't, Lindsay. Saying we should treat homosexuals different is homophobic. Saying kids shouldn't be exposed to your ill-informed bullshit is a personal opinion on what quality of education kids should get. And let's be honest, you are in no way up to scratch. You're one step off from telling kids they can be magical flying pixies when they grow up. I mean, look at this.
There's something a bit weird about how doctors assign gender to babies. That's because there aren't only boys and girls. And because not all people identify with their assigned gender.
Oh, so the doctors are wrong sometimes?
Yes, Teddy. Sometimes doctors don't assign the right genders.
Leaving aside the more than two gender bullshit argument for a minute, you claim doctors assign genders at birth, which is factually incorrect. Doctors determine the biological sex, based on the baby's genitals. The only way a doctor can be wrong is if they mistake a penis for a vagina, or vice versa. You suggest it is wrong of a doctor to consider the biological sex of a baby, and that they should just not label a child at all, based on the fact that some people don't identify with a gender matching their biological sex. However, that number is only around 3 in every 1,000 people. And you're suggesting that that's common enough that you should teach kids that doctors are wrong? Well, I'm sure the odds of you surviving being hit by a car while playing football on the motorway are better than 3 in 1,000. So how about we just go and say that it's safe for kids to play football on the motorway? Because apparently we only need to be correct 0.3% of the time to completely disregard the fact that 99.7% of the time the current system works completely fine. Kids don't need to know this stuff, and they'll grow to learn about it as they need to. You present it as something fun to try out, and it's not. People can discover these things on their own, and if the rest of us aren't forcing pro-straight or pro-cis stuff down their throats, which I assure you, we're not, they'll naturally come to the conclusions they need to without outside influence. It's okay to be gay, it's okay to be trans, but we don't need to force kids as young as your intended audience to start questioning their identities in the same way that they don't need to be taught about sex. It's something they will discover in their own time, with proper guidance in the latter half of their education. The most frustrating thing about scripting queer kid stuff is that all my research just yields resources for parents and educators, never directly for kids. Take the hint. That's because queer kid stuff only serves to confuse children, make them question scientific fact and doctors, and consider their identities long before they're mature enough to actually understand them. I mean, hell, most young adults are still trying to figure out their identities. You don't need to start getting an 8-year-old to worry about it. Peeing safely in your preferred bathroom should not be a privilege reserved for cis people. Guess what, asshole? It isn't. Post-op trans people can use their preferred bathrooms too. The only difference is that society will naturally question someone who looks like a woman using the men's bathroom, because everyone else can't see how you feel on the inside. I mean, what? Are you going to wear big signs saying, "I'm female to male"? Or a snazzy armband, perhaps? Because otherwise what you're suggesting is a system where nobody is questioned about the bathroom they use, and at that point we may as well go with mixed bathrooms. So why not argue for that? Or is it because the patriarchy you wade your way through would somehow ruin it? We can't just not question people's genders if they're using what appears to be the wrong bathroom when we have a separate bathroom system. Trans kids' identities are valid. Of course they are. If a child feels that they're the wrong gender, then of course they should be able to dress and be the other gender, and express themselves in any manner that they wish. We draw the line at where parents force genders onto their children regardless of sex, which does happen, or transitioning as a child because, as mentioned before, they're still figuring out their identities, and while those identities are not invalid, it doesn't mean that we should give them serious and irreversible surgery before they're certain that that's what they need. Milo's fans call me paedophile and child abuser. Simon Schuster ousted him for paedophilic comments. Ironic revenge is a dish best served cold. This is so fucked up. Milo is not responsible for his fans' comments and actions, so it isn't revenge of any sort, unless it's revenge against his fans. But are you really the kind of person who wants someone called a paedophile in the name of being smug to his supporters? Are you that fucking petty? Also, Milo discussed pros and cons of lowering the age of consent, and did actually say that he didn't think that the age should be lowered. Funny how the media takes something out of context to spin a tale of bullshit about those on the right, huh? Milo can now join PewDiePie and Trump in the people the media lied about gang. I don't agree with everything Milo says, but this was certainly not him advocating child abuse.
You might have noticed that I've been dealing with a little bit of negativity here on the channel. It's actually why I've had to turn off the comment section on most of my videos.
You're dealing with criticism because you're a narrow-minded, ill-informed twat, with ideas so out of touch with reality that you may as well include Jesus turning boys into girls and girls into boys in those scripts you find so difficult to find material for. You turned off comments because you can't stand the criticism you so desperately need to hear, like a moody teenager putting earphones in while their parents explain why they can't waste 3 years of their life and a shit ton of money on a gender studies degree. The definition of a bigot is someone who cannot accept the opinions of others, and nothing is more bigoted than actively silencing any that care to disagree with you in the slightest. You're a blight on society, not because you preach tolerance of the LGBTQ people, which is commendable, but because you propose counterproductive methods backed by poorly thought out plans that could only be thought reasonable by someone with their head so far up their own ass to think that they've struck on a brilliant idea with a kids show about LGBT issues, when in actuality the only reason it hasn't already been done before is because nobody else has been retarded enough to entertain bullshit thought in their mind for longer than a nanosecond. Well, I think that's a nice rounding off point. I've been Cynical North, Lindsay has been a self-righteous bigot, and I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.